What if I told you the world was running out of sand? It sounds like a joke, right? Like saying we're running out of air, or that the oceans are running out of water. Just look at the Sahara, or the Gobi, or any of the vast deserts that cover our planet. Sand seems infinite, abundant, utterly, completely, boringly insignificant. But what if I told you that this boring, insignificant seeming sand is the single most consumed natural resource on the planet after water? That entire islands are disappearing because of it, and that violent criminal empires, literal sand mafias, are waging bloody turf wars over it? And what if I told you that one of the world's biggest superpowers has figured out how to turn this humble grain of sand into a geopolitical weapon? A weapon they are using to quietly wage a new kind of war, to economically strangle their rivals, and to literally, physically, erase a border that the rest of the world is sworn to protect. This isn't a story about some far-off abstract conflict. This is the story of the most important substance you've never thought about. It's the story of the hidden war for sand. And the main arena for this war is one of the most volatile places on Earth, the narrow strait of water separating China from Taiwan. For decades, the battle for Taiwan has been one of warships, fighter jets, and diplomatic threats. A loud, visible, and tense standoff. But while the world was watching the horizon for aircraft carriers, China began a far more subtle and perhaps more ingenious attack, an attack from below. They have deployed a ghost fleet, a colossal armada of dredging ships that are working 24/7, sucking up millions of tons of sand from the seafloor. This isn't just a construction project. It's a strategic maneuver designed to achieve two goals that no missile could. First, by banning the export of this sand to Taiwan, they are attempting to starve its world-leading technology sector. And second, by physically moving the seafloor, they are changing the geography of the strait itself, in a quiet act of aggression that no one seems to know how to stop. So how did we get here? How did a handful of dust become a weapon of war? And how can a country literally dredge a border out of existence? To understand that, you first have to understand the secret power of sand. Our story really begins with a simple fact. Not all sand is created equal. The sand you see in deserts, the wind-worn, rounded grains, is utterly useless for construction. The world we have built, our gleaming cities, our towering skyscrapers, our endless roads, is all built with a specific type of sand, angular, gritty sea sand, or river sand. It's the magic ingredient in concrete and asphalt. It's what we use to make glass for our windows and our phone screens. And, most importantly, it's the source of silicon. Pure refined silicon, the very heart of every single microchip on the planet. For most of modern history, this was fine. There was plenty of it. But in the last few decades, an explosion of global development, led by China's unprecedented urbanization boom, has created an insatiable hunger for the stuff. We are now using 50 billion tons of sand every single year. That is enough to build a wall 90 feet high and 90 feet wide around the entire planet every single year. Suddenly, this overlooked resource became strategic. And nobody understood this better than Beijing. As China built its own cities at a record-breaking pace, it also became the world's biggest producer and consumer of sand. And it noticed something very interesting about its neighbor, Taiwan. Taiwan, a small island, has very few natural resources of its own. To build its apartment buildings, its roads, and crucially the foundations for its critical semiconductor fabrication plants, it had to import millions of tons of sand. And its biggest supplier, conveniently located right across the strait, was China. The stage was set for the first phase of the Sand War in 2022, after a visit to Taiwan by U.S. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi. China responded with a massive show of military force. They flew jets, sailed warships, and fired missiles into the sea. The world watched, holding its breath. But then they did something else. Something that went almost unnoticed. They announced a halt on all exports of natural sand to Taiwan. Think about that. Amidst the roar of jet engines and the headlines of military drills, the most significant move was the quiet turning off of a tap. It was a brilliant, asymmetric move. China's stick figure representative could essentially say, "You want to assert your independence? Fine. See how you build your future without our dirt." For Taiwan, it was an immediate economic threat. Construction projects stalled, but the real target was deeper. The semiconductor industry, Taiwan's so-called silicon shield, is the island's most important defense. Companies like TSMC produce over 60% of the world's most advanced chips, a dependency that makes the world, especially the United States, deeply invested in Taiwan's security. But to expand, to build the next generation of factories that will power the world's AI and military tech, TSMC needs concrete, and concrete needs sand. China's sand ban was a direct shot at the heart of Taiwan's silicon shield. But this is where the story takes a darker, more audacious turn. Because starving Taiwan of sand was only part of the plan. The other part was using that same sand for itself, in a way that would change the very battlefield. This is the midpoint twist. This isn't just an economic embargo, it's a physical transformation. China has amassed the largest dredging fleet in the world. Thousands of vessels, from small barges to colossal ships the size of football fields, have descended on the Taiwan Strait. Officially, they are there for land reclamation projects in China. But their activity is concentrated in a very specific, very strategic area, the narrow channel of water that separates the two rivals. They are literally sucking the bottom of the ocean up. And in doing so, they are making the strait shallower. This is the hidden hand of geopolitics at work. For decades, military planners have analyzed the Taiwan Strait based on its depth, its currents, its underwater geography. That geography determined where submarines could hide, where amphibious landing craft could operate, and how a potential invasion might unfold. It was a constant, a given. China decided to change the given. Their dredging fleet is like a giant eraser, wiping away the old map and drawing a new one. A map that might be more favorable to their own forces. A shallower strait is easier for an amphibious landing. New sandbars and artificial islands, created from the dredged material, could become forward operating bases. They aren't just taking sand to hurt Taiwan's economy. They are using that sand to actively reshape the physical environment for a potential conflict. It is a slow-motion act of territorial aggression, happening particle by particle, ton by ton, right under the world's nose, and the global reaction? Mostly silence. How do you condemn a country for dredging? There are no international laws governing sand as a strategic resource. It's not oil, it's not uranium, it's just sand. And so the fleet keeps working, the seafloor keeps rising, and the border keeps shrinking. This brings us to the climax of our story. A war that is being fought not with bullets, but with pumps and hoses. Imagine the scene. On one side, you have Taiwan, a vibrant democracy, desperately trying to maintain its independence, watching anxiously as its primary source of a critical building material is cut off. On the other side, you have the colossal power of China, deploying a civilian fleet as an instrument of state policy, literally moving mountains under the sea to gain a strategic edge. The sheer scale of this operation is the moment of maximum tension. It's a quiet, grinding, industrial siege. Every day the dredgers are out there, their pumps roaring, sucking up the seabed that has defined this region for millennia. The ecological fallout is catastrophic. Marine ecosystems are being wiped out. Fisheries that have sustained coastal communities for centuries are collapsing. But in the cold calculus of geopolitics, this is considered acceptable collateral damage. The fallout from the sand war is rippling outwards, forcing Taiwan to make difficult choices. It now has to import sand from farther away, from places like the Philippines or Malaysia, at a much higher cost. This drives up the price of everything from apartments to infrastructure and puts a financial strain on its strategic tech industry. It's a constant bleeding wound. So, what happens next? As we see it, there are three possible future scenarios. Scenario 1. The grinding escalation. China continues its dredging operations, unabated. The strait becomes progressively shallower, and the ecological damage becomes irreversible. Taiwan is forced into a permanent, expensive struggle to secure resources, weakening its economy over time. The international community, paralyzed by the ambiguity of the situation, lodges formal protests, but does little else, effectively allowing China to set a new precedent in gray zone warfare. Scenario 2. The technological pivot. The pressure of the sand embargo acts as a catalyst for innovation. Taiwan and its allies invest heavily in research to find alternatives. This could mean developing new types of concrete that use less sand or pioneering large-scale recycling of demolished buildings to create a circular supply chain. In this future, China's weaponization of sand backfires, accelerating a technological shift that ultimately reduces its leverage. It's a long shot, but necessity is the mother of invention. Scenario 3. The global awakening. The sand war in the Taiwan Strait, combined with the devastating impacts of illegal sand mining and mafias elsewhere in the world, finally forces the United Nations to act. Sand is officially declared a strategic global resource, just like oil or water. International laws are drafted to regulate its extraction and trade, and satellite monitoring is used to police illegal dredging. This would be a monumental shift in global governance, recognizing that the most fundamental building blocks of our civilization are now flashpoints for conflict. But until then, we are left with a profound and unsettling new reality. The next time you walk on a concrete sidewalk or look through a window or use your smartphone, remember the story of sand. Remember the invisible battle being fought in the waters of the Taiwan Strait. The simplest things can be turned into the most powerful weapons. And the most dangerous conflicts are not always the ones with the loudest explosions. They are the ones that unfold in silence, grain by grain, as the very ground shifts beneath our feet, and the borders of our world are quietly and irrevocably redrawn. This hidden war for sand is just one of many being fought over the resources that build our world. Which resource do you think will be the cause of the next major conflict? Water, lithium? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to understand the hidden forces that truly shape our world, make sure to subscribe to Stickonomics and hit that like button. Thanks for watching.